Good evening. I will be opening tonight's meeting because the first order of business is reorganization of the board and appointments to committee. At this time, nominations are in order for the chair of the Mount Anthony Union School District Incorporated Board of Directors. Do I have any nominations for chair of the board?
I nominate Francis Kenny.
David Durfee, do I have a second?
I'm going to decline before anybody has a chance to second.
Okay. Do I have a nomination?
Francis Kenny.
Is there a second?
Yeah.
To that nomination? Second. Okay. Are there any other nominations?
I nominate Tim Holbrook.
We're not getting audio.
Is there a second to that?
Yeah, we are.
Second.
Okay. Are there any other nominations?
Move to close nominations.
Okay. I'm going to, since we have more than one, I will pass out paper ballots. 3, 4,
We're not getting audio.
5, 6 in that direction.
Don't worry about it.
4 in that direction.
Just do your thing.
You have 2 nominations before you, Francis Kinney and Timothy Holbrook. Mr. Barnes, are you doing anything back there? You are?
No.
Oh, could you come up, because I just want, when I look at the ballots, I think it's best we have 2 count them with me. You have your ballots done, fold them, pass them forward. I read them, will you mark them? Ready? Fran Kinney. Tim Holbrook. Tim Holbrook. Tim. Fran Kinney. Fran Kinney. Tim Holbrook. Fran Kinney. Kinney. 10.
5-5. Russell?
We could, we're missing a board member. We could contact him. What?
Or we could do a second ballot.
Ron Higgins did volunteer for a teleconference.
Yeah, he has volunteered. Because he's been sick, he volunteered, so I think we should give him a call. Yeah.
I would recommend that, why don't we have each person that's running for this explain a little bit why they want the position, and then if you want, have another vote. But let's get a little more input from the people that are.
Camera, please.
that want to be chair.
All right.
I want to continue the job that I've been pleased to have for the last few years. I believe that I make a big effort to try to include everyone in the decisions that are made. I try to look at both sides of issues and bring those issues to the board. It is often, it's a time-consuming job in the sense that you've got to look after many different constituencies and try to make the decisions that are best for the kids. And I think that's what our ultimate goal is, to be able to supply the best possible education that we can for our kids.
concur with you on that, Tim, as far as the education goes. I've been on this board not as long as Tim has, but long enough. And I see, we need to change some of the directions that we're going in, and one of them would be, every time we've hired a new superintendent, the boards kind of get involved, and the superintendent really is kind of just a figure person, but the boards end up doing the work, and I don't think that should be. If you're gonna hire a superintendent to do the job, and that's how it's how you evaluate a superintendent, by the job he's doing, same as principals or anything. I kind of like to keep the boards out of that and let those people that we're paying do the work, and that's how you can change education itself. If we're really for the kids, that's what we need to do.
Are we ready to revote? I suppose the other option is to reopen nominations. What is the wish of the board?
We still have one missing board member, and, give it a hold of him.
Usually when a board member is not going to be present, they'll notify central office and ask and give us a number to contact them with and pre-arrange for them to be logged into the meeting. We did not receive that tonight or this afternoon. Haven't heard from Mr. Higgins, so I think that might be a little unusual at this time. We could do a second ballot. If we still have a tie, then we might want to reopen nominations, similar to how you would have in a political convention when there isn't an agreement from delegates. It then is often reopened to the floor. All right, so hearing no objection, I will pass it first. I want to, Mr. Barnes, will you take these ballots? Because I don't want to mix those with these since they're the same color. Six in that direction, 4 in that direction. Mark this as the first round. Pass your ballots forward. If I can ask Mr. Barnes to join me again. Fran Kinney. Tim Holbrook. Tim Holbrook. Tim Holbrook. Fran Kinney. Fran Kinney. Tim Holbrook. Tim Holbrook. Fran Kinney. Tim. So that would be 6 for Tim in the second round and 4 for Fran. At this time, I will turn the meeting over to the elected chair for the rest of the nominations and
Very good. Well, thank you all. I'll try to do the best job I possibly can, and I always encourage board members and members of the community to let me know if you have concerns, and I certainly will try to respond to you in a timely way. The next position that we have is the vice chair. I do accept nominations for the vice chair.
I'll nominate Leon Johnson.
Second.
You have a second?
I nominate Fran. Since they want to be chair, let's see if we can first chair.
Sure, okay. Okay, we've got Fran and Leon.
Let's see if they get a second.
Second.
Are there any others?
You should second the thing.
Yeah, second.
Yeah. Are there any others? Very good, we should probably do this by,
You want to do this by ballot?
by ballot again.
That should have been in the folder that you could copy over. If you wanted to. Oh, you don't want to? That wasn't what I was telling you. There is. It just works faster when you copy it to the drive sometimes.
For the vice chair, Fran Kinney. Leon. Fran Kinney. Fran Kinney. Leon. Fran. Leon. Leon. F. Kinney. Fran Kinney. 6-4, Fran is the vice chair.
Congratulations, Fran, very good. Now we move on to the clerk. I'll take nominations for the clerk. I would like to nominate Rob Sherman.
Second. Lightly decline.
I thought you would. The job of a clerk it can be a very important position. He or she is the one that, generally speaking, writes the letters to different people that the board has approved to have those letters sent. Rob's always done a good job. I know that his position at the hospital is extremely time-consuming, and it's very difficult for him to get things done. So the floor is open for other nominations.
Who's been the clerk in the past? Just
Oh, before Rob?
I've done it for 10 or 11 years of my term.
let's say somebody's been the,
Well, your
Nominate
experience
Dave
then.
Durfee.
He's got to know.
He can decline it. I nominated you.
Yeah, I'd rather somebody who was more enthusiastic about it was the clerk. Thank you, Fran.
I'd like to nominate Kevin Goodyear. There's somebody new who's been with us for a short period of time. It's
I'll
good to have
second
some new blood. We have a second. Any other nominations? All those, close nominations? Close nominations. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Very good, congratulations. We'll go over what that involves, but it's certainly appreciate it. The next thing we have to do is the SVSU representatives. As you know, this board supplies 2 members of the SVSU, to the SVSU, and 1 alternate. That alternate would assume the full position of representative of the board if one of the other 2 people aren't there. So I would entertain a motion for those people that would be interested in that particular position.
I'll suggest Nelson Brownell and Leanne Johnson.
Do you have a second to those 2?
Second.
I'll nominate Dave Durfee. Give a second.
Second.
Do we have any other nominations?
We'll close nominations.
Do you have a second to that?
Second.
Very good. So we have 3 nominations for the positions at the SVSU board. It's generally done by a vote. The first 2 vote getters are the permanent representatives, and the third is the alternate. Is that agreeable to everybody? There's nothing set in stone on that, but that's usually the way we've done it. If it is not, if you do not agree with that, let me know. If not, we'll proceed then. Jim, why don't you-
Question?
Yes.
So am I supposed to vote 1, 2, 3?
No, well, that will be up. Just 1 minute. We have, I'll take any suggestions on, that's a good question, Dave. I'm glad you brought that up. We could do it in 1 or 2 ways. We could, in order to get a ranking, we will just have to vote for the top 1 or the top 2, I guess.
You could, and everyone has the right to put up to 3 names on.
Well, no, just 2, I think.
Should,
Up to 2?
Just the 2.
Top 2? Okay,
And the other one would be the alternate, right.
very good.
Does anybody have another suggestion? If not,
I was gonna say, if you just vote 1, and then whoever, the top, and then the second number, and then the third number, that way.
okay, but we also have agreed with the other 2. So
Yeah.
if that's agreeable to everybody, we'll go ahead and do it that way. So what we've decided is we have 3 nominations, Dave Durfee, Fran, no. Nelson, I'm sorry, Leon and Nelson. Those are the 3. And we ask you to write 2 names on the ballot.
Is it one piece short there? And one more, so that way?
It's split.
It's coming.
There you go.
So, Nelson Brunel, Dave Durfee, Leon Johnson.
Right, the top 2
Yep.
vote getters will be the permanent, the third will be the alternate. We ask everybody to vote for 2.
Have to have a voting machine.
Can we collect the votes from over there yet?
Here, just print out the ballots before we have these nuisances. Did you see that Rutland ran out of ballots?
Okay. For the SU rep, Nelson Brunel, Dave Durfee. Leon and Nelson. Brunel and Durfee. Nelson and Leon. Leon Johnson, Nelson Brunel. So this one is ranked 1, 2, 3. They put 3 names, so I'm just going to read 1 and 2, right? Nelson and Johnson. Nelson and Dave. Durfee and Brunel. Leon and Nelson. David and Nelson.
Give Frank a minute.
We have 10 for Nelson, and we have a tie of 5 for Dave and 5 for Leon.
Okay, I think what we should do then is just vote, we'll exclude, we'll vote for those 2 on another ballot, and the winner will be the representative, and the other will be the alternate. Congratulations.
I should have come with something pre-made.
I don't have to worry about these things because I can spell my last names.
In this case, we just vote for one of the 2 candidates, either Dave Durfee or Leon.
Getting better at this.
think this is a first.
Yes.
They're good at handing out paper. Physical education teacher.
Just like to note that if the board all had Chromebooks, we'd be done by now.
No, it wouldn't be, because I'd get confused.
Maybe still trying to stop.
Yeah, we'd
I just barely
be
got
able to
signed
get
in.
in.
Probably look for a connection, you know.
Right. Totally occurred.
For the second SU seat, Dave, Leon, Dave, Leon, Leon, David, Leon, Durfee, Leon, Dave.
Okay, you guys should run down the hallway and the winner gets.
Do we want to do the same that you did with the chair? You gave each person an opportunity to speak and then do a reballot?
We can. It's an important position. I just wish we had our other board members here. Sure, why don't we do that? Why don't we do that? Leon, why don't you go first? Go ahead.
I want to be on the SDSU meeting board for several reasons. The one, I've been on the board for almost the past 22 years. One of the main functions of the board has been the job of policy. And currently, I've headed, for most of the 22 years, the policy committee from the SDSU. So that's one of the things that I like to do. I've always been consistent in terms of making sure we follow our procedures and the directions that we need to go into in terms of a board. So I'd like to be elected back to that committee so that I can continue with that work of heading up the policy committee and continue with the various procedures and formats that the boards need to be operating in all the different districts. Thanks.
Thank you. Dave?
Yeah, not having come prepared, obviously either of us, to make a speech. And I would say that we're in good hands, whether it's Leon or me. Leon's obviously served much longer and has a lot more experience than I have. I've been the clerk the last couple of years on the SU board. I've represented the SU board on negotiations for the teacher's contract, and before that for the administrator's contract. So, and neither of those is obviously relevant at the moment, but I think it has given me some insight into the larger processes. So, again, either of us will be quite capable of representing the MAU board. And
Very good. Do any board member have a question for either two candidates? All right, I guess we go again, Jim.
Why don't we just send both and then let them decide at the meeting which one is going to be the alternate and which one is going to be the sitting member? Hey, it's good enough for Iowa. Said we just send both and you can decide among yourselves which is going to be the alternate. And which will be the sitting member for that particular meeting. Which is the way it works with an alternate anyway.
right, yeah.
Okay, round 3 of the second SVSU rep. Leon, Leon. Dave Durfee. Leon. Leon. David Durfee. Dave. Leon. Leon. Okay, Leon, 6 votes. Oh, I'm sorry, there's one more, Dave, because I said there, yep. So Leon, 6 votes, Dave Durfee, 4.
Very good. We can move on then a bit. We have, it's my responsibility to appoint different committees. And the committees that we have and have had and will continue to have are education, agriculture, finance, and policies. We've had those 4 committees. We could add committees. I don't want to take any off because I think each of those committees performs a function that's necessary for this board. What I would like to do is have everybody give a little thought to it. I'll send out a memo, and if you would write down those committees that you would like to serve on, I will make a decision. That's a board, that's a chair's responsibility. I will have it ready for you by the next board meeting. Nelson.
Only because of what we just went through. When we respond to that, should we say what number 1 is?
Yeah,
number 2?
that would be helpful to me. What I'm interested in is people that are particularly interested in serving on a particular committee. I think Ed spoke to me at one time when I had appointed somebody and him to a committee. Am I right, Ed? You came back to me and said, I'd really much rather be on another committee, and we can always make changes. So it isn't cast in stone. But there are certain people that I feel do a very good job in their role on a particular committee. And I would be very prone to keeping those people on that committee.
Then why don't you just send a sheet to everybody, to all board members, or email them, and then they can just check the box on which one they want? I mean,
Sure, let me just give it some thought. And one way or the other, I'll get back to you on it, okay?
Okay.
Are there any other questions? If not, we can move on to the regular. Oh, I have one thing before we go anywhere. There was a mistake in the minutes. The motion about the condoms was introduced by, I can't remember, but it wasn't Dave Durfee because he wasn't here. Was it Dave? It was Dave Frederickson.
It was Dave Frederickson.
Yeah, I think that's the only, so I just need a motion to approve the agenda, the amended minutes. Have a second?
Second.
All in favor? Opposed or abstentions?
Abstain.
Okay, very good. One thing I would like to say is that it's very helpful to me, or any board chair, to be informed if you are not going to attend a meeting. Most of you are very, very good at that, but recently we've had some very important votes that have taken place when we haven't really had a full board representation. And I think it's extremely important that we do that. And if I know that we have a particular important vote coming up, and we've asked somebody to be here to present the facts for that vote, and I find that we only have 7 members showing up, I might very well postpone that vote or postpone that presentation until I can be sure that we have a fuller board. So I just ask you, please, if you can't, I know Rob's awfully good when he's busy, lets me know usually, and Dave, but do let me know if you're not going to be here. It'll make our responsibilities certainly more encompassing.
Tim, can I
Yeah.
just follow up on that? We have a meeting that would be scheduled for the 3rd week of April typically,
Okay?
3rd Wednesday. I'm not sure if that falls during school
It
vacation
does,
week.
we're going to have to discuss
We're gonna-
altering that.
Before we leave tonight?
Yeah.
Well, okay.
There was some question about changing dates of meetings. What the general procedure is that central office is responsible for warning it. They do warn it. Sometimes those warnings don't appear in the paper. But the statute states that a perfectly legal warning is to be on our website. And I know that the meetings that we have are posted on that website. So if you are wanting to know when the next meeting is and you don't see anything in the paper, go to the SVSU website. I'm never sure exactly how to get to that section, but you're probably better than I am. You can get to it and find out when it is. And if not, you can always call central office. Right, Jim?
Yes.
Okay. We have a presentation coming up on Act 77. Who's going to be the spokesman for that? Spokesperson.
So there are three spokespeople for that. Lindsay Restino, who is a junior at the high school, Charlotte Windover, who is also a junior at the high school, and Brooke Remington, who is our school to work coordinator at the high school. And the three of them have joined me in taking a course this year called Communicating School Redesign. And through this course, we have learned how and have been able to work on how we have rolled out personalized learning or the personalized learning plans at the high school, and have done some work on some of our flexible pathways, both of which, as you guys know, are part of Act 77. And this youth-adult partnership that we have formed through this course has really guided that work and is moving it forward. And recently, the work that Lindsay and Charlotte have done communicating about personalized learning at both the middle school and the high school level received international attention and was picked up by the Ontario schools and their youth-adult partnership. And there's a blog and some kudos out there for Lindsay and Charlotte due to that work. So they are going to catch you up on what we've been doing. And so I'll turn it over to you all. I am also going to be filming this presentation, just so you know, because we have a presentation coming up at the Agency of Education in May, and I want to be able to use clips of this in that presentation. So I'm assuming that's okay.
I'll just start by saying that we've been working on introducing Act 77 to our school, to the stakeholders at Mount Anthony. So Charlotte and Lindsay, along with myself, Ms. Presto, and a group of other teachers and students at Mount Anthony have been working throughout the school year to go around and chat with as many students and teachers as possible, just to let everybody know this is what Act 77 is, give people background information, kind of equal the playing field. So everybody is starting from the same spot knowledge-wise, and then moving forward, working in different groups to gain some knowledge and to bring everybody's opinion about where education is heading to the table so that we can start the conversation about what things need to happen to make positive change at Mount Anthony. So Lindsay and Charlotte are going to chat with you a little bit about our experience with communicating school redesign, and I'm just going to tap through their presentation when they get moving off.
Okay, so I'm Lindsay. And I'm Charlotte. And like Ms. Presto said, we're both juniors at MAU, and we've been taking a course, so.
Yeah, and the course is called Communicating School Redesign.
Okay, so how we got involved with Act 77 is in the beginning of the school year, we were nominated to do interviews for this course. So we went through the interview process, and me and Charlotte were the ones who ended up being chosen.
Yeah, and so in the beginning of the course was really just educating us on what Act 77 is and what the act was passed to start, including in Vermont high schools.
Yep, and we're also the student leaders on the high school PLP and PBL committee. Okay, so about the course, it's called Communicating School Redesign. We were taught about Act 77, how it came to be, the purpose behind it, and we really analyzed the bill, and we really got to know it for the first couple meetings of our course.
Yeah, and one of the things that we really focused on was not just what's in the bill, but how the bill came about, what is the actual research, the psychology behind the things that Act 77 includes. And so I think that was one of the most interesting things, is looking at what is kind of the brain analysis that was behind Act 77, all the research that went into it, that led to its passing.
So once we got the actual understanding of the bill, we had facilitator training, which we were taught how to initiate conversations like this between the communities, teachers and staff, and students.
Yeah, I think that's been one of the most kind of engaging parts of this process, is learning how to facilitate a conversation when it's a mixed group. It's not just our peers, it's our teachers as well. And so that's been one of the parts that I've learned the most about this experience, is learning how to facilitate those conversations, how to have those conversations with a diverse group of people.
Right, and also through this course, we were able to visit the Compass School in Westminster, Vermont, which is a 7 through 12 school, a 7 through 12 grade school, and they've really implemented Act 77 and flexible pathways into their learning, and their students were doing the things that they loved while going on to great futures.
Yeah, it's a much smaller school than our high school. It's less than 70 kids actually, but it was really interesting to see how they had their schedule and how their grades looked like. It was much more like a rubric, but it still had all the courses that kids at the high school are taking. And we kind of went into it very open-mindedly, thinking, this isn't necessarily going to apply to the high school, but how is it that they do things? And what was really interesting was that here these kids have a very different type of education throughout middle school and high school, but they're still going on to go to Princeton, they're going to Yale, they're getting into these really top universities with this alternate type of education, and how can we take those kind of basic values that they were using at the Compass School and use them at our own high school?
Right, and now we're just being prepared in our course to present in front of the Vermont Board of Education. So that's happening in May, and we're getting prepared for that, we're getting ready, so.
Yeah, we're working on a video. Some of this footage might be in it to hopefully present in front of the board there to show them all the things that we've done so far this year.
So now we're just going to talk about the work that we've been doing in the high school and the middle school. So first, through the course, we were required to administer a survey to the student body and the staff and faculty at the high school. And basically the point of the survey was to get just a basic kind of perspective and understanding of Act 77 and school redesign. And mostly what the feedback that we got was they didn't really, most students didn't really know what was happening with Act 77, and they also agreed that education kind of needed to change.
Yeah, and I think the survey itself was a learning process for us. How do we communicate to all the students and all the faculty about something like this? And as kind of our first mission for this course, it was really an interesting opportunity to see what we were kind of in for, the challenge of connecting with so many different students over a completely diverse cross-section. So that was really interesting, but as Lindsay said, we did get a general consensus that students felt like it was time to change. And there was also consensus that student and teacher relationships should be stronger, and that was from both teachers and students.
So after we got our survey finished, me and Charlotte and I proceeded to talk to every freshman, sophomore, and junior in our school through SOS, which is like an advisory time halfway through the day. And this took us over a month. We went around to every SOS and we really just talked to them about Act 77 and PLPs. And we just wanted them to know that they would that their voice was going to be heard in the process that we're going through. And we were just there to answer their questions.
Yeah, and through that process, we got some definitely negative feedback of students feeling like how our college is going to look at this, what is this going to look like. There was a lot of concerns. However, there was also a lot of positive feedback. There were a lot of students who said, hey, my younger sibling would have really loved this. They would have really loved the fact that now they feel like they have a voice. And this is something that I would have loved to see freshman year. I would have loved these kind of opportunities or things that students didn't know about. Many students didn't know we had dual enrollment. They didn't know all the courses at the CDC. They didn't know all the field study opportunities. And so getting to have that kind of personal conversation with students was really beneficial in spreading what Act 77 is.
And also a part of that, and a part of making sure all the students felt like they were being heard, we went to different groups that might not usually get a say in school decisions, and we focus grouped a slogan for our Act 77 campaign. And the slogan that we ended up choosing was "Pave Your Own Path," and that's going on all the posters and stuff around our school to educate them on just a basic kind of meaning of what Act 77 is.
Yeah, we also were able to work with our graphic design class and come up with a logo to go along with the slogan. And again, it's just all of our work is trying to bring in as many student voices as we can. And so that's why it was really important for us to take the extra steps, and even though it took a long time, was to get the slogan done, was to get a lot of different student feedback and opinions, so that when we say pave your own path, we're talking about all the different flexible pathways that Act 77 embodies and how each student is able to pave that own path for themselves. We like to say that there are many pathways as there are students at MAU, and so everyone has the opportunity to take a different path, and so that's what our slogan is trying to embody. And we also came up with a poster campaign for our school, so we've been administering fact posters about the school to kind of give students more information about what Act 77 is, on top of what we told them during seminar time.
We also are currently holding informational parent meetings at the high school, and we've had 2 so far. There's another one coming up in April, I believe, and those are for the first one was for freshman parents, and then the next one was for just underclassmen parents, and they've been progressing. We've been getting more parents than the first one. We only got 1 parent, but it's good to see that people are getting interested in this, I guess.
Yeah, it's been good to be able to give parents the feedback that they want, and not just the students. So, yeah, and then we've also been working on the SBSU PBL committee, and through that work, we were able to connect with the middle school and start to go over and talk to 7th and 8th graders about personalized learning plans, and not just personalized learning plans in middle school, but how they carry on throughout high school.
Yeah, working with the middle schoolers so far has been my favorite thing from this, because they're just so positive, and they just love having older students coming from the high school and just kind of giving them advice. So it's nice to be appreciated.
Yeah, some of our feedback for PLP high school isn't as positive, but once we got to the middle school, kids were really excited about it. They saw PLPs as something that was going to help them. They saw it as something that they were excited about. So it was really great to get that feedback.
And then this is we're just going to talk about our personal experiences with flexible pathways. So last year, my second semester of my sophomore year, I took a Vermont Technical College calculus course, and basically what that was, it was a blended learning course, so it was half virtual and then half classroom learning. So the virtual part, it was a teacher who was over at Williston, Vermont, for Vermont Tech College, and she would talk to us over Skype, and what she would be writing down on her iPad would come up on the projector. So it was definitely a different experience. It was a class I've never taken before, and it taught me how to adapt to different classroom situations, which will definitely help me later in life. And then also this year I started taking community service with Brooke Remington, and been doing it since the end of January, but so far, like, I really like it. It's been a good experience to work with younger kids, and it's just like it's like a different type of class.
So my flexible pathway started freshman year when I started by taking Intro to Culinary, which is a course offered through the Career Development Center. And through culinary, not only did I get a lot of hands-on experience of working in the kitchen and actually creating food, and we have a store open on Wednesdays for faculty to come and eat what we create, so that was really cool. But we also got a lot of real-life experience. We talked a lot about interviews, about soft skills, about creating cover letters and resumes, which my freshman year, first coming into high school, getting to do all of that was really awesome as a great experience for what the future is going to bring for me. So I think that was a really great experience. And then also doing virtual high school this semester. I'm taking journalism in the digital age as my first block class. And getting to work online was something that I wasn't really accustomed to, and I wasn't sure what that was going to be like, but it's actually been a really awesome opportunity. I get to talk to a lot of peers throughout Vermont. On my course, I get to talk to people in Connecticut and New Hampshire, all around New England, and I've actually found that through the online course, I actually talk to peers more than I do in my classroom, which is something I wasn't expecting, but we do a lot of peer review and communication between each other, and so I think that's something that virtual high school offers that a lot of kids don't know about. So that's kind of been my experience.
So I'm just going to touch quickly on our School to Work office. So I run our School to Work office with the help of Amy Bolio, and we offer classes that are work-based learning and experiential learning opportunities for students. So what that means is that students go out into our community. Community Bennington is very supportive of our program. We place between 50 and 70 students a semester into Bennington County in different work-based and place-based learning experiences. So there's 3 classes that run through my office. Field study, which I'm going to show you a video about, so I'll touch on that at the end. Community service, which Lindsay spoke briefly about, where students are placed in different volunteer opportunities in our community. Typically, students have to go to 2 different types of sites. So one of those is a school in our district, and it can be any school. That is limited with transportation, so students who have a car of their own or a license are definitely, the opportunity is more open for them, but certainly we have schools within walking distance of the high school, so they can get that experience either way. And then the second opportunity is in a nonprofit organization in Bennington County, and so some of the students have worked with Bennington Coalition for the Homeless, in our district courts, with our town government, BCRC, BBC, different organizations like that. And so those are really great experiences for students just to get out there and, as I believe Charlotte mentioned, just try out some of their skills, gain some soft skills that are needed in that that world, and move forward educationally in that realm. And the last class is field study, and so students in field study are out in our community getting their first experiences with a job or a career path that they're interested in. And so they do some work in the front, resume, cover letter. Charlotte mentioned many of the things that we do through field study. And then they're out every day for between 1 and 2 hours, depending on the block of time that they have field study, trying out a job. And the amount that they can try is dependent upon the field that they go into. So we have some really great placements. West Mountain Animal Hospital actually lets students try out different veterinary skills. So you're going to hear a little bit in a brief video that I'm going to show you about students who are placed at West Mountain. We certainly have other great opportunities for kids at SVMC, which is largely observation-based, but students get just as deep or rich an experience in an observation as they would, watching, because the folks who host these students are adept at making sure that the students are gaining as much as they can from the experience. So this is a short clip. It's about 3 minutes long, and forgive me for the background noise, but this is taken during our school day, so you'll hear like a bell ring, and I tried to tone out the background noise, but here it is. So these are field study students from this semester. And there's speakers, Tim, is this hooked up to? Right here?
No, through, I'm sorry,
Oh, my
second
bad.
shelf down.
Yeah.
That one or fine.
Probably. Let's see one.
You can go off the top of the screen on the laptop, so maybe, control button from the top first speaker.
Yeah. I wonder if this will work if I just turn it all the way up. I'm not sure.
Start playing music.
Sorry about that. Yeah, it's fine. All right, I think we can play it just through the computer. It'll be a little quieter, but. Oh yeah, Frank. Will you help me? Sorry, excuse me. We can always play it through the computer as well.
That's why I thought you were listening.
Let's do this to
You won't play through the speaker for
I think it will. I just didn't know if it would be loud enough. All right.
I don't know why it's stuck in this. Be careful, don't
Should I try it? Because it's playing now. It's not. Okay. I'll just unplug it and see if it works this way.
You're gonna have to come back next month.
I have softball, so it's Can everybody hear that? Sorry.
It's okay. I didn't know you were gonna need this. Yeah, this you got.
Let's try this, and if not, then you'll just have to take my word for it. The kids are getting an authentic experience in our community.
Got it.
Yeah, no. All right, well,
We'll get you
post
next
it on the
time.
website.
We could get this on our website?
Yeah, we'll post it on the website.
Okay. That's good. Thank you. Can you turn, well, will you turn it off, or how does that?
Well, yeah, it'll.
All right. Well, thank you very much.
I have a question, and if it's too long, just tell me and we'll talk about it at another time. But you said you went into the history of how Act 77 evolved. Could you tell us any of that, or where to find the information on it?
Yeah, so I think one of the things we discovered was that the basis of Act 77, the basis of Act 77 was actually started way back in the 1960s. And so while a lot of people have mentioned that this is something new, that this is something that was kind of rushed, it's actually been something that's been in the works for quite a long time now. I'm not entirely sure where to get that information, but I know that it's out there and it exists. And the other part of Act 77 that's been in the works for a while is a part that I talked about as far as psychological research. We look a lot at information about students' brains and how they develop, and how a lot of the things that we're teaching at school right now are not really helping and not conducive to current knowledge about students' brains and how they're developing. So that's kind of the information.
Thank you.
Are there any other questions? Anybody in the audience like to pose a question to the presenters? If not, we thank you very much and we look forward to hearing more about it. It's going to be an ongoing project for really quite a while. we've done up at the school, as most of us, most people know, have been involved in this, other alternatives to education, whether it be through some of the local colleges or online or anything else. So there are all sorts of opportunities out there, and I'm happy to see that we're taking advantage of them. Okay, we can go on then to public comments.
Hi, I'm Katie Schonbeck. I'm a math teacher and a math teacher at the high school. And I have 3 things that I wanted to bring to you. I thought it was just 2, but there's actually a 3rd thing. Thank you, Lindsay. I wanted to point out that that the dual enrollment opportunity that Lindsay was able to take advantage of last year, the Vermont Tech Calculus course, is unique in the state of Vermont. The teacher at Vermont Tech often says that Mount Anthony students historically have done far and above her college level students. So it's a really, really great program, and we're very fortunate to have it here at Bennington. If you have some specific questions about it, Chad Gordon, who is the teacher at Mount Anthony, is here tonight, and you could ask him later on. It's a really, really great program. The second thing I wanted to bring to you tonight is a little bit of like, hey, here's some stuff happening at Mount Anthony. This past Wednesday, it's Wednesday, so last Wednesday, there were over 35 students who sat for the 59th annual UVM mathematics contest. This is a really crazy hard test, 41 questions, 2 hours, no calculator. Kids historically go through, question 6, and then they're like, oh, can I go back to my class? I think I'm ready. So they kind of peter out about 45 minutes to an hour. Well, these 36 students were still at it, going strong and being productive mathematicians at an hour and a half. And Isaac, you were one of those people. Did you have fun?
It was a good time. Other than that, I only got through about maybe a fourth of the test, but it was nice. It takes like basic concepts that you would learn before pre-calculus, and it applies them in a way that you really have to think about, and it incorporates like multiple strategies to find an answer into each question. It was really interesting and very rewarding when you found an answer that you may have thought was right. So
you can see the sweat is dripping off these students, and all of a sudden they're like, oh, like you just see the light bulb go because they got it.
Yeah,
Like, okay, I got it again.
very rewarding.
Yeah,
Sure.
so that was thing 2, and then thing 3 is that I want to let you know that the high school math department has been looking at national board certification this year. We have 4 teachers that have signed on. They're going to be taking the first test as soon as it comes online in the middle of April. Next year we'll have 4 more teachers, and we aim to be the largest collection of national board certified teachers, not only in the southern part of the state, but in the state. So go team math. Thanks.
Thank you, Katie. Are there any questions of Katie? That's great. Do we have any nationally certified math teachers presently? Yes. Katie is one. Congratulations to you. Was there a question back there?
I have a public comment.
Okay, I'm sorry. Okay. Any questions for Katie? All right. Any other public comments? Yes.
Good evening, Jean Connor from Bennington. In hearing the reorganization plan for the MAU board, it just dawned on me that I think it would be fantastic if, as chair and all of the board, would think about possibly raising your hand for committees that you possibly have never been on before. We seem to have a lot of the same people doing the same board positions year after year after year, and possibly the same people serving on multiple committees, when I'm not sure the work is being spread out evenly enough amongst all board members. And I guess it's just something I would encourage board members to do, and as the chair, to be cognizant of, that you're spreading the work. Because, you run for the board, and part of your job is to serve on a committee. So I guess I would just encourage some change.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Are there any other public comments? If not, then we'll move on. We have we have a group of people within the MAU who are not part of a regular contracted services. Those people include jobs like Tim Brown's, the trainer, many people who, many students, many of the people do work. I'm trying to look at the list here, which I misplaced. But anyway, there are a whole group of people that work as mentors that are paid on an hourly basis. One of the things that we've always had been a concern about is how to financially reward these people. And as part of our budget this year, we allocated 3% increase for all of those people. There are about 15 of them or so. And in an executive session, the board can go over if they want some more details on exactly who those people are. So in order that those people receive their raise, the 3% raise that was extended to other members of the team that serves the high school, both the teaching staff and the support staff, we need a motion by this board to approve the 3% raise for those people who are off contract.
Second.
Is there any discussion? Yes, Fran.
I know it's only 3%, but the point is, who evaluates these people on the job? Because we just don't.
Sure, that's a good question. There are, I know that, you know, Tim can probably, the principal evaluates some of those people. Some of those people that are in that group evaluate some people that are underneath them. The mentors, I'm not sure who evaluates them, to be honest with you. Can anybody answer that? Brenda?
The question is who evaluates the academic mentors?
Yes.
The principal.
The principal does that. So those people, you know, are evaluated. They work with individual
Okay,
students.
I just
Yeah,
wanted to make sure that that's, because we just don't give everybody raises.
yeah, no.
Anyway, okay, that's fine.
We can discuss it in more detail, but if we do that, it becomes a personal
Yeah,
matter. We go into executive session. Yes, Dave?
I think you just said, Tim, that if we had questions about who was on this list, we would
Yes.
talk about it in executive session. Is that something that should be public discussion, who we're
No,
talking
we
about?
can read them off, but if we were talking about specific salaries, that would be executive session.
Okay, all right.
We can, at least my understanding of the personnel part of it, I'm looking for the sheet here. I put it aside so I wouldn't misplace it, of course I have. But anyway, Jim, do you have that by any chance?
No, I do have it, but.
Well, here it is.
Yep.
Here it is. We have, just for your own interest, we've got a security person on it, athletic director, behavioral specialist, academic mentor, maintenance director, academic mentor, behavior specialist, land steward, clinician, and athletic trainer. Those are the positions. Any further? Yes, Nelson.
This increases for this upcoming year, that's what the 3% is?
That's right, for the next academic year. Contracts are going out right now, and in those contracts, the raises that were negotiated through negotiation are part of that, so these people would get the same thing. Many of these people, all the mentors are on an hourly basis. So it depends how many hours, how many people we have it. But some of the positions, like the athletic director and the maintenance director, and some of those are full-time positions.
Yeah, I just want to make sure that this wasn't something of a retroactive.
No, this is for the next academic year,
Okay.
16, 17. Yes?
Is this 3% across the board for everybody, or is there a merit?
No,
Increase
it's
in
across the
those.
board for everybody.
Okay,
And these are employees that do not have steps in their contract, similar
okay,
to.
thank you.
Yeah, you're right, so that they don't. Are there any other questions? Okay, we have a motion, but we had a second, didn't we? We had a second to that?
Yeah.
Okay, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Abstentions and noes? Very good, we can move on then. Okay, we go down to the financial report, the treasurer's report. Need a motion
I'll
to
move it.
accept? Do we have a second?
Second.
Second, thank you. Do we have any discussion on it? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstentions? Very good. Budget status report is part of your packet. We have a presentation by Paul, our chief of
Paul
maintenance.
Tansworth.
I saw him.
He's here.
There he is.
Yeah.
Yes. Thank you, Paul.
Paul Mansfield, Facilities. I just wanted to give a quick update to the board reference to Solar Consortium. Last month, the board had a motion that they approved to sign a 20-year contract with Ampersand Energy Partners for net metering credits to net metering credits to the district, not less than 24% on electric rates charged by Green Mountain Power. Jim Kosis, the SDSU finance officer, was in discussion earlier today and has followed with Mr. Keith Sampson, who's the Vice President, Business Development, Competitive and Energy Services. And that's part of the Energy Consultant Group that was hired for SDSU as part of the consortium. Mr. Sampson stated that it was recently determined that Ampersand Energy Partners was not included into current Green Mountain Power net metering agreements. So, and additionally, Green Mountain Power has achieved its cap on net metering for this year, so that no additional solar companies are able to become part of the net metering process. So therefore, the Ampersand Energy Partners is not able to enter into that net metering agreement this year with Green Mountain Power. Now, however, the future is still unknown. If Green Mountain Power does decide to open up again for additional sources into net metering, that might become an opportunity. SCSU Finance Department is pursuing it. If there's any other existing companies that are part of net metering right now that do have availability, and if it makes financial sense, we'll pursue those actions and present that to the board at a future date. So for right now, we would not expect us to have any benefits from the net metering that we were expecting for the upcoming year.
Well, do we still have our application in? I understand that Green Mountain Power has reached their quota for net metering.
I understand our application is still in, however, they met that cap, so we're
Right. Do we have any indication as to, when they would reopen that? Or when was
Not
the,
this time.
not at this time. Do we have people that are still pursuing it?
Jim Kosis, finance officer, ourselves, as well as, sorry, let me show you.
That's all right, just.
Sorry, as well as Mr. Sampson of Competitive Energy Services, which is the consultant for the facility consortium.
Very good. Just 1 minute, Jen. Paul, any questions from the board on this? It's too bad, because we were going to realize some nice savings.
We're expecting a 24%.
Yeah, 24% and the net metering off our bill, which would have been,
It's our understanding that the cap was reached in November
wow.
Right, and with the.
with Green Mountain Power.
The thought Ampersand was already included in that, but it was a start, they were not become part of that, that's why.
Well, it's disappointing, but thank you for letting us know and keep us informed, and I hope that we will continue to make our application to take advantage of it. Oh, sorry, Nelson?
Yeah, I guess the question I have is, since the board has gone into a contract for this person to deliver this, and it sounds like he can't deliver it, where does the contract stand at that point? Is it void, is it?
Let me find the exact answer, I'll make sure I let the board know.
Yeah, because the key
I'll
is
make an
because-
assumption, but I don't want to make an assumption.
Because when you talk about another company that would come in, that one would have to be.
We'd have to bring that proposal back to the board again, yeah.
Yes.
Because-
We haven't had any financial commitment or have any money that's going to them so far. That's correct, isn't it, Paul?
Yeah.
So we're not out any financial money, and we're not indebted to them in any way to pay them for their services they provided so far.
Well, we have a contract to sign.
We have a contract.
But at this time, that.
But they can't fulfill it.
Ampersand has
We
no
can't
way to
fulfill it.
fulfill the service.
Yeah, well, but you talked about there might be another one you're looking at. If we find another one, we've signed one contract, what's our obligation to,
No,
that's,
yeah. And the other proposals that we've seen out there are as low as a 14%, so return, so the,
well, the towns where I am is doing something similar, and I know, and the legislature is trying to make some changes, but I'm just concerned if we sign.
That we're not still committed to them. We'll pursue that.
Follow up with Jim.
Yeah.
Yeah, we'll follow up on it. Thank you. Thank you, Paul. Are there any more questions for Paul on this? Nelson, are you all right? All right, we can move on to the consent agenda. A second? Second. Is there any discussion, or anybody like to discuss any of the issues on the consent agenda? If not, I'll all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstentions? Okay, we can go on then to policies. Leon, do you want to work on that one, or do you want somebody else to do it?
Been work on it. We have, well, first of all, I need an action for this board once I go through the first policy, and I need this board to take some action because of a decision we made at the Mount Anthony meeting will be in conflict with this particular part of the policy after the policy committee met. And this is the policy that deals with condom availability. And that committee met, and we had members from the high school and the middle school, and the principals and other board members met, and we drafted up the policy piece that dealt with condoms availability. And there were 4 basic items in the policy. If everybody's got it and read it, but I'll read it here so that everybody realizes what's in the policy. Appropriate counseling will be provided by Pacific trained and designated faculty staff of each student requesting condoms. Condoms shall be made available to students of the SVSU at their governing board deemed appropriate. In order to protect student privacy, no records will be maintained related to the request for condoms. Individual students will decide whether to access the available service. And 5, the specific administrative procedures will be designated by grade level. This is the policy. The administrative regs that follow this will allow Mount Anthony to decide how it wants to provide condoms to students under this policy at the high school level, at the middle school level, and any other districts out here that want to can decide to do that on the SVSU. So the problem that Mount Anthony, this policy has in terms of the policy, when Mount Anthony made a vote to enter into agreement to do this, in part of that motion was the fact that we wanted parents to have an opt-out clause. That was a real problem for the administrative part of this policy, in that it puts the student and the administrators that are working in here at a real disadvantage, and it created additional work for us to try to maintain records of who a parent may want to opt out or vice versa. So the language was changed so that the student, the individual student, will decide whether they would access the availability of this service, and the districts can set their own regulations for that. So what I like to have is, this is the policy, is that I'd like for you to warn this policy, and then, well, before you warn the policy is to have a revote of the, we want to say, we want to have another motion to rescind the policy that I said, that included the recommendation for Mount Anthony to have parents opt out in the policy piece. And if you wanted to come back with some administrative regs to do something, it was just fine. But the board that met and strongly recommended, and that's why it's not in here, that you not have an opt-out clause in the policy.
Right, I'd like to just make it clear, this board does not necessarily have to go along with this. This board is an independent board, and that, we like to have policies that go through the whole supervisory union, but if this board feels that they would like to maintain that clause that we had in our original motion, it certainly is, they're able to do that. But I went to the SVSU meeting, and there were some very convincing arguments made there that the paperwork, the inability really to enforce it, the difficulty for a student having to want to take advantage of the availability of condoms, and for one reason or another, his parents may not want him to do it. I mean, he could just go to another student and have him go in or her go in and pick him up. There just were a myriad of, or a good number of reasons why, after some consideration, it may make more sense to redo our vote or redo our proposal to incorporate more closely what's in the recommendation that comes down through the SVSU. So I'd just like to open that up for discussion to see what this board would like to do. And as a reminder, when we sent out the questionnaire, we had, I think there were 49% of the people that did respond to it were in favor of the opt-out. 42%, I think it was, were not in favor. They felt that that should be a choice of the student and that the parent should not have the ability to opt out. So it's really a board decision as to, how they want to proceed with this. Do you have any, Dave?
However, that survey, such a small number of people participated in it, it's not too significant.
You could look at that two ways. You could either say, well, people just don't care that much about it. I mean, we gave them every opportunity. We had surveys, we had 3 meetings that we discussed it here at the board. It wasn't as if people didn't have an opportunity to, to bring their concerns to us. So even though it was a small response, I'm not really sure how to handle that. But that's a good point. I'm not denying that. Nelson.
As I understand the policy that we've read, this is just giving each individual school the ability to set their own policy on what it is. So I see two things we're talking about. One, what MAU would like to see as their policy when they set it. The other is saying, here's a policy that will allow the schools to do this. I think that's what we're voting on tonight.
That's what you're voting on, but voting on this will be in conflict with Mount Anthony was asking for. And I wanted to make sure that when we brought it to the full policy board and everybody looked at it and critiqued and talked about the things, no one was in favor of Mount Anthony's portion when it came to the fact that we want to have a parent opt out. And the reason I'm saying it here is that it put administrators at a great disadvantage. It put a tremendous amount of stress, as Kim mentioned a bunch of the things, on the students. And what's going to stop me from asking Fred to go get one, somebody else or somebody in the school system along that line, and trying to manage that and then tell a parent, I said I didn't want them to have it, and yet they got it. It's best to take that out. And so that's why I'm back here now and saying, look, we need to think about that and consider
Nelson,
what
but the statement in conflict here would be the individual student will decide whether to access the availability of services. Now, that would imply, certainly if you read it, that the decision as to whether to go in would be up to the individual student, and that the opt-out clause would not be part of that.
By the parent. Okay.
And the other thing is that I think on number 5, I'm not really sure the wording, Leon, where it says by grade. I would rather change that to each board. Each board would have the ability to set administrative regs. I don't know how you do it by grade.
The reason it's in by grade is, this is one board, Mount Anthony. And we have a middle school and we have a high school. And so if you say by district, then what about the high school? And what about the middle school? You probably need it more in the middle school than you do in the high school if you start to go out and look at the research. But and it left the option there that if another district, K through 6, wanted to do it out here, they could do that, but they can state the grade level for that. They could say sixth graders, or they could say fifth. So it wasn't, it left the doors open so that it's up to the district to do what they want to do and put it in there, so.
I think it just makes more sense to have it, the district, the MAU board would have the authority to be able to dictate the circumstances under which this policy would function. I'm just not sure what by grade means. That sort of seems to me. Take it back, and it's not a big deal.
Well, what you see is do we, each grade, we're gonna set something, or are we gonna set something for the district?
Yeah, for the district.
Because either we can sit down here and argue for each grade, or we
Yeah.
can say, here's what we feel is the principle for the district.
We can talk about it, we can do it as a district, and we can do it by grade as a district, or we can do it by middle school, high school, whichever the board feels is the best way. Just bring it up for discussion.
Yeah.
Okay? And the other thing is, I would appreciate some feeling of this board, whether they would accept the wording here in terms of the student, the opt-out clause. Do you want to stay with the original motion, or do you want to rescind that motion and have it comply with this statement? Nelson?
If we approve this policy, are we not voting to override what we did anyways?
I don't think so, because I know that
Yes, because it's saying, you're automatically saying it's all right for individuals. Where before, yes, come on, statutes are put in place, the next day you vote a different statute. We're voting something different if we vote for this policy.
I don't know, maybe it's just a matter of semantics, but just to make it nice and clear, I would like this board to make the commitment that they realize what they're voting on and that they are changing the vote that they took at our last meeting.
Yeah, sorry, Tim, I think that's important. There were only 7 board members present at that meeting. So that's one consideration, another consideration. But I personally think that as written, the policy, and as Leon described, the policy should be approved by this board. And I think that, that might be enough, just approving it might be enough to sort of convey that the sense of this board is that we, have reconsidered what was approved last time. But if you think that we need to be more specific, then we could go back to that language and revote it, or we could wait until another meeting.
Sure. Nelson?
I'll make a motion due to the discussion that we're having, that we have reconsidered what our previous motion was, and we're going to move to approve this policy to show what our decision is at this time.
That's the one,
To warn this one.
That's fine. Richard, do we help you with that? Do we have a second for that?
second.
Okay. Any discussion? Thank you. That would alleviate the problem.
Question?
Yes.
So, that what we're just talking about, the opt-out is gone.
That's right.
Thank you.
The opt-out is gone, and we could go into more detail as in the reasons, but to me, it makes a lot of sense. Somebody else had a question. Yes.
We're going to leave designated by grade level in this
No, I'm going to bring
because,
it back to see if we could by district.
yeah, I'm actually in favor of that because there's a big difference between a 12-year-old that could be in the 6th grade and an 18-year-old.
Well, the board can decide.
So
All I'm saying is that if you haven't leave it up to the district can decide anything they want.
But do we want to hear from the high school and the middle school? Because this is what we're talking about. And we got 2 people here that are responsible, one for the middle school and one from the high school. And going back just to say here, just because we're the board, I want to know how you're going to manage it and how you want it to be managed, because this is a policy and the procedure is going to be from the high school or the middle school.
Right. Tim?
And from that discussion that the policy committee had, I think it wasn't a proposal on Glenda and I's part, but the idea that it would be at the high school, grades 9 through 12. There are districts close by that do 7 through 12, but it would be a 9 through 12 first step, see how that goes, and work out the policy and procedure.
Sure. The board could decide which they want to do it over a date. I think the general consensus that the decision whether to implement this program would be left up to the districts. each board would have the ability to either, follow through and carry on with it or not, or modify it in whichever way they felt. And that's why I think using that word. Anyway, just bring it up immediately at the next meeting and see what happens. David?
Tim, I don't know whether there's a timeline or sense that was established at the last month on implementation, but I'm a little worried about this policy going through the normal, dragged out policy process when you've got 7 districts, some of whom don't have 7th graders, 8th graders, and so forth. So, just so that we're not sitting here in October waiting for Woodford.
Right, it was the board's decision at that time, it was sort of a consensus that we would move ahead, and we would do everything we possibly could to comply with the policy that came out of the SVSU. But there are a good number of things that have to be done. I mean, the people that will be dispensing have some training, and we're going to move ahead with that. That was the general consensus. Does that still go along with? But isn't that your general?
Yes.
So we'll do that.
Yeah.
Okay, we can move.
Well, I just want to say, there was one other thing. I did want to know, I got some fan mail, and I didn't want everybody to think that, and I don't know why they sent the fan mail to me, but, and I don't normally do this. A gentleman is almost 90 years old, and he said that I should be ashamed of myself for heading up the policy committee to discuss this in here. And so I am starting to get mail on condoms availability, and I won't say any more than that out here, but people watch this stuff and they're starting to, now hear what you're saying. I just want you to know that.
I'll call the motion.
Okay. All in favor of the motion, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Opposed? Abstentions? Very good, the motion passes.
One no.
One no, I'm sorry.
The next policy is policy 1020 was modified. Visit to the schools by parents, guardians, community members, and what's been changed here, school board members are media, interviewing, filming, and videotaping and recording. This particular policy was upgraded and to include mainly the addition of board members here. And so that's what we're voting on here, is a little background information behind this so that everybody realizes that administrators are in a position to do the jobs that we hired them to do. And throughout SVSU, there has been great concern in the central office and so forth about the jobs and responsibilities of school board members. And to make sure every school board, when you sign the document and read your oath, you know the power of the school board is at this meeting when it's convened and not as an individual. And so it was brought up to to the policy committees that we needed to do something to heighten the awareness for all the board members throughout the SVSU, that you must realize that you just can't just walk through the schools and do various things out here, that there are certain things in here that the principals at the school level, if you're going to come in and want to see classes and do some other things, you should follow the same protocol as visitors from the community, and that's what this policy is out to address.
Question?
Dave?
So if I come in and sign in, is that what I'm supposed to do and it's okay? Because I think, yes, and I do, and I'm at Mount Anthony 2 to 3 times a week, and I think it helps me be a better board member. Example, I sent Donna Leap some stuff on how substitutes could be improved. And I wouldn't have known that if I wasn't there and talked to some subs. But is this policy discouraging me from going?
If this policy is discouraging you as acting as an individual, when the board have not given the consensus and given the directions, and the principal of the school has not approved for you to come in and do certain things. That's what this whole thing is about. So it's to be warned, it's to be discussed, and the board can decide that, well, We don't want to do that. We want to do the things that Dave is talking about out here. This is the first time around. But it was enough concern by individuals in the various levels of education in terms of administration, central office. One of the hardest things that the board has to do, you're not going to have the principal or the school or the assistant principal or someone, a superintendent say, don't come in, and they don't want to say that right now. But there's issues when they're having to try to do their work or do a job when various board members may be coming in and saying, I'm here, I want to go do this or go do that. So this is the start of that conversation, but I'm saying, the board, this is a policy piece. I mean, again, it's up for warning, it's up for discussion, and you can decide whatever you want. This is for all the board members to.
Well, I think another example too, if you're going into the high school or the middle school, and you're interrupting classes or pulling teachers out to talk to them or something, that's a problem. And that shouldn't ever be happening whatsoever. No board member, I don't care who it is. And there's been some problems, and I think we have a policy now, we're not to do that stuff. You want to talk to a teacher or something, you talk to them after hours, after when school's out, or you make an appointment somewhere else. I think that's the way it should be.
How about before school? That's my
And you can do that too. As long as you're not interrupting the class and not taking anything away from the students, that's fine.
Actually, to make clear, this is a bit of a, well, I certainly understand your point, but previous administrations have encouraged board members to visit the schools and to walk the halls, and it's been a very open door policy where people can come in and talk. Certainly not disrupt classes or whatever, that sort of thing. So I would hate to see that ability for a board member to at least go into the schools so that they could learn more about what's happening in them. And I understand what you're saying about not disrupting classes and that sort of thing. So maybe when the policy committee reviews these things, you could take both those points of view into consideration. Does that make sense? You know what I'm saying? I'm not being very clear about it.
Oh yeah, I know what you're saying, and I'm just saying that I know, that I tried to give you the information that I'm getting from the people that are being in these positions. And I'm saying central office, the high school, the middle school, the elementary schools are all saying there is a problem. And I'm just telling you right here on CAT TV, there is a problem. And the problem is that board members are acting individual and not acting in the directions of the board. And so as a result of that, we went back and we looked at our visit to the school policy and tried to make sure all of the boards start to become aware of the fact that there are issues. Now, if you have another way of dealing with that, board members, I agree, and I had some other suggestions myself and said, well, we can schedule certain, the superintendent or the principal says, look, on this month, we want to have all the boards come in the building and have a thing along that line. Or the board can say, we want to go specifically like we were asked to do, and say, we want to take a tour of the school, and we asked the principal or both elementary and high school or elementary school that to set a date up, and we want to all take a tour and formalize what it is that we want to do or what it is we want to see along that line, and we do that, and we have it on a certain time and a date. You can do that, but just to say I want to go in at any point in time, they're saying they're having issues, and it may not. Dave's a nice guy, and I've been knowing him for 40 years out here, and he just happened to be that. He gave me my first coaching job my officiating job at the high school. But I'm just saying that there are other individuals that may not be as nice as Dave when they go through, and so. And he's definitely not at the other districts out here along that line. So they're bringing this stuff up and want us to put some in here. So
Fran, that's a good idea. I think the different things that have been discussed here, I think you get the general gist of the things. I think that, I'm certainly probably one of the people that should apply to. I've been just going into the school for years, and I just have to be more careful to sign in, I guess. But I think it's a good thing to bring up. I think we ought to take a look at it. I would hate to see board members discouraged from ever visiting the school. I certainly agree with what Fran or Leon, whoever said it, that you don't want to have them in any way disrupt classes or be an inconvenience. On the other hand, I think that board members should have access to the school under reasonable circumstances. Enough said. We can go on forever. Yes?
Wouldn't it be effective if one of us is a pain in the butt and they say, you're doing wrong?
Sure.
It takes
let
care of it
people know.
instead of just putting a blank policy that discourages people from coming in.
Anyway, you want to, Nelson?
I have no trouble with the way the policy is. There's usually some sort of procedure when anybody comes into the school, and I don't think a board member should feel any different than anybody else that walks into the school. And what you've got to do is, if it means checking in, signing in, then do that.
Yeah.
And the principal in the office knows you're in the building. It's when you just walk into the school, or walk down through because you want to see Joe Smo, and say, hey, I want to see you, and
I think it's-
catch them when they're on break. I think that's where it gets a little iffy with me, because I think if someone's in charge of the school, the principal, they better know you're in the school.
I think that makes
I agree,
sense.
and it's common courtesy, sign in and let the principal know that you're in the building and where you want to go,
That certainly makes.
as any visitor would do.
Yeah, I think that makes sense. And, if I've caused some hard feeling. Yes, Dave?
I mean, to me, signing in is the minimum, I mean, at the very least.
Yeah.
If a parent were just to come in and sign in and then start walking around the schools, how does the principal feel about that? Is the board assuming that happens all the time? I'm not. I don't think that's our practice. I'm curious, Dave.
Yes.
I feel a little derelict that I don't spend more time than I do, despite agreeing with this policy. But when you're there, those several days a week, are you
Before
there?
school.
Are you there in your capacity as a board member or as a citizen?
Both. I
Anyway.
visit Tim too.
When we had this whole discussion of the condom business, I went to the school several times to see Christian Harrington, just to be sure we were on the same page and things were moving along in an orderly way. And when Tim Brown wanted to, we'll be discussing this, the baseball issue, I always try to go in and ask him, what the situation is and whether he's touched all the bases and all that kind of thing. And we talked about whether he should come to the board to present it or the board should present it. So there are situations that possibly we could work out an agreement to do it.
Yeah, that would never prevent anyone from going in and signing in and saying
Fine.
what's going on.
Yeah, I think that's good. Okay, we can go around, but I think you get the idea, Leon. We look forward to hearing something
So
more.
what do we want to do here? This is up for warning, and we can warn it, it's not an adoption, but I'm trying to hear all of the comments so we can take that back and so forth, but this is a warning, and you got a motion on the floor.
Yeah, and basically just says they have to follow the same procedure anyone else coming in.
That's right, that's what it says.
Well, I'd move. Did somebody already move this?
Yeah, I think it's already the motion.
Let's do it again, just to, Richard? No, I don't
Richard
think
says
so.
no.
I move we warn the policy as currently
Second.
spelled out.
Okay, and I would encourage you, Leon, at the next meeting to discuss what we've discussed here.
Will do.
Okay, all in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed or abstentions? Very good. Let's see here. Let's place my agenda again.
Did you say that Tim has something that he has
Yes,
to
I
bring to
know.
the board?
Yeah. Tim, why don't you bring up this situation now, please?
We need a seventh inning stretch?
Yes, I need a 7-inning stretch.
This is the middle school baseball?
I certainly
Yes,
do.
I did email to everybody the proposal that Tim sent. Did everybody get it?
No, I didn't.
Mary Lee should, I gave it to her to
today?
No, this was a long time ago. Anyway, I'm
Well,
sorry.
A quick history lesson. I came to you last year about this time because Babe Ruth had folded in Bennington, and we had kids 12 to 13 who had nowhere to go play baseball. They were too old for Little League, they weren't high school yet. You approved a middle school baseball team. We had 18 students sign up, we had 28 show up to tryouts. We ended up keeping 20 kids. They had an undefeated season. We raised about $2,500 for uniforms, whatever. And I do remember saying, I may be back next year with the numbers we had. We had signups 3 weeks ago. We had 38 kids sign up for baseball, of which 2 are still eligible for, one was eligible for Little League in Bennington, one was eligible for Cal Ripken in Pownell. So our policy is, because we do not want to cut into those programs, if they're still eligible at that age, they can't participate in this program. We still have 36 signed up, so we anticipate probably having 40 for tryouts. So I'm here asking for approval of a second middle school baseball coaching position, with the understanding we would go back out into the community and try to raise money for uniforms for this team, baseballs, catcher's gear. I've gotten a quote, about $2,500 it's going to cost to put this team on the field. We did this through donations and advertisements on the back of the game program, so we're prepared to do it again just to get these kids a chance to play baseball. So I'm here to answer questions.
Yes, well, Tim, I think you explained it, but I'm sorry, I thought it had been sent out to you as a proposal. But we had a number of clubs and things that have been canceled.
Yes.
And we have approximately $3,600, something like that.
Yeah, the salary for the
The
middle school
salary of
position
the
would be
position
$1,700.
is not going to change the allocation of the sports fund at all. We've got enough surplus in there from closed activities so that we can cover that expense. Tim,
Yeah, there's 4 clubs that didn't run this year that have run last year, so there's about $3,600 in club advisor salaries that isn't being spent this year, so.
Money's there.
And again, that would be because we can't fundraise for a coaching position.
Right.
That's part of Appendix C.
Right.
Where do they play in practice?
We really lucked out because with the Bennington Baseball Park, which is the senior, the older age kid field at Little League Park, they had 3 fields there. Our middle school team last year played there, so they would share the field. Our freshman baseball team also practices there, so 3 teams would be sharing the field. But unlike in the past where our team had to be off the field by 5 o'clock when Babe Ruth started, there is no Babe Ruth, so they're not charging us. We sunk quite a bit of money into that field to get it ready. We had to purchase a new net backstop. It was about $1,200, and we got a Comcast to put it up for free with their trucks. So really, the community really came together to make this happen. And they're not going to be charging us any use for the field because, like I said, we've really fixed it up nice, and it's now really playable.
One other thing, I did call Tim Payne and asked him, and Tim, would you like to make your comments known?
I just think it's a need in the community. You have a number of students who want to play baseball. It would have an impact on the high school, not having an opportunity for kids to play until they're 9th graders. So that would have a ripple effect. And I just think it's a nice thing to do for the community. It builds goodwill, the school stepping up and supporting kids.
Very good. Tim, what motion should we make? This board is asked to approve the coaching position for middle school baseball.
Yes, what we would do is we'd have an 8th grade team. The coach from last year would coach the 8th grade team. So I would, if this is approved, I would post a 7th grade baseball position, which I would need to fill in 2 weeks when they start. And so it would be, I believe it's for $1,700 and change.
Right.
Tim, what about scheduled? Can you find enough other 7th grade teams to play?
I've already been,
Yeah.
I've got the wheels in motion.
So the motion would read that we ask for approval of a 7th grade baseball coach at a salary of approximately $17,000, correct?
$1,700.
I mean, $1,700. I know you get that.
Otherwise, I would have many applications.
I'm trying. I get 50%.
I want 10. Jeez.
All right, does anybody, do I have a second to that motion?
Second.
Does anybody have any further discussion?
Tim,
Yes.
just want to be clear on the rest of the expenses, and you mentioned fundraising, the community coming together. We don't ask other teams at the middle school or the families of other team members, basketball, soccer, so forth, to fundraise. Do we have money that we can allocate to offset whatever other expenses there might be? Uniforms, you mentioned travel, I imagine.
Well, I mean, teams do often, fundraise for, maybe the board isn't aware, but I would say over the course of the year, they probably raise about $200,000 for equipment, for uniforms, for items, so it's not that uncommon. There is, we're gonna double up them so they ride on the bus with teams that already have trips. There is the added expense of officials that comes out of the gate account. The good news with that is our gate account from games this year is up about $10,000. So we have a surplus, quite a bit of money from people coming to games. And we put in, this year we put in the budget for 2017-18, a middle school baseball budget of about $1,200 to help replace the equipment that we, borrowed. So there will be a budget in place the next school year, and then the following year we'll increase that a little bit with the addition of 7th grade baseball. But we understand you gotta crawl before you run, so.
Ed?
One quick question that's sort of related. Since we're actually putting another cost on the back of the taxpayers, can anybody explain why the Babe Ruth League failed or went out of operation?
Not being involved with that program, my guess is that every year there are different people, they're volunteers. And when your kid goes through the system and you don't have a child in the system, there wasn't anybody that stepped up to take it over. I know the people that were with that program have been there a long, long time.
Thank you.
Just to clear things up, we're not asking for additional money. We have the money in the budget, it's just that
Reallocation.
we're reallocating.
Reallocating.
Right, and the taxpayer isn't directly involved with the fundraising that goes into the things that Dave was asking about. I just don't want to leave the impression that we're putting an extra burden on the taxpayer. Okay, we have a motion on the floor. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed or abstentions? Very good, thank you, Tim. Good luck to you.
Made 20 kids very happy.
Well,
They aren't gonna get caught.
that's great, that's great. Okay, we can move on then. Administrators report.
I wanted to, first of all, say my apologies for arriving late. It was my honor to sit with a very nice group of high school students this evening as the cross-country ski team was celebrating an end of a challenging season at Prospect Mountain this evening. It's a nice group of kids, 40-plus kids, 100 in attendance. For what Coach reminded us all is the worst recorded winter in Albany history at less than a foot of snow. I just wanted to also say congratulations to Erica Hale, who I believe is an honorable mention for Vermont state selection. So a nice crew and a good reflection on the high school. Just a nice group of kids to hang out with, and I cut out while they were still going. I also want to thank the two presenters as I arrived, Ms. Rustino and Ms. Windover. They came and spoke in front of assemblies of 80 to 100 middle schoolers, and I have to say they were cool, calm, and collected beyond their years. They did a really nice job blending enthusiasm for the opportunities kids were going to be seeing at the high school, being good ambassadors for the high school, and I think it's really a reflection on their teachers and on the high school of how well they conducted themselves. I can't say that every middle schooler rose to the challenge of having a visitor, but it was nice to be able to point to something, to a person, and say that's what you need to aspire to. So I want to thank the two ladies, and again for coming out this evening and doing a really nice job with the presentation. They've probably gone home to do homework and be good students. We had I just want some thank yous this evening. We hosted our winter carnival the weekend of March 5th. We had nice weather, great turnout, lots of food, lots of folks. I wanted to thank the parents and the faculty who come out on those, that Saturday morning and afternoon to host us. The superintendent, I want to thank you for coming out and buying some tickets. I don't know if you were successful or not.
No one called me that I won anything, so.
Yeah.
Or my name was thrown back in.
Yeah, I just put my donation in, that's the way it goes. But I especially want to thank the PTSA members and Dan Amadon, who is a teacher here for many years and puts in a lot of time and effort. It's not so much an activity for middle school students or high school students. It really is a lot of younger kids. It's really a nice way to invite the community into the school, and it's nice to see everybody come out. So I want to thank the volunteers who make that happen. On an academic note, we are now into trimester 3 at the middle school. We started on Monday. This is the final March to June. For those watching at home, we have selected a tentative date for our 8th grade celebration. It'll be June the 9th, which is a Thursday, and it falls right between the high school's awards night on June 8th and high school graduation on June 10th. Yes, that is the earliest we've ever had 8th grade celebration in a long time, so now that we've said that, it's going to snow next week. I
don't know if you saw Monday morning's forecast yet.
Yeah, I'm really going to do it because I'm going to shave the beard this weekend and then we're all going to get buried in it. SBAC testing, for folks who are familiar with it, last year was the first year for SBAC. This is the vaunted standardized test from the state. Our students take it on computers. It adjusts to the individual student. And in addition, they do performance tasks. We start that on March 28th, which is a Monday. It is a 2-week process. We do not test for 2 weeks fully, but it's very much a routine established by the state, and that will go through the 8th of April. We'll be testing math the first week and English the second week. And I would just encourage folks who are watching, please encourage your students to go to bed early, get a good night's sleep, eat breakfast. If you miss breakfast, don't worry. We'll provide it for you, and try your best on any given day. That's what we're looking for. I missed my opportunity to connect with the high school presentation this morning about earlier in the meeting about PLPs. Had a truly amazing experience last Friday, the 11th, to sit with a group of middle school teachers and students from Bennington College. They were brought together by Amy Moriarty, who is a social studies teacher in the 7th grade, and she is looking to bring in older but cooler people than myself to talk to middle schoolers about how you plan and how you arrive at your goals, and met some truly amazing students who didn't always follow the most traditional path to college. And they were very energizing for us as teachers, and Miss Moriarty is very excited about having them come in. These students will actually come in and tell their stories to our middle schoolers, and then work with our students to be filling out their PLPs. And at the middle school, grades 6th, 7th, and 8th are all working on the PLPs, and we're probably experiencing the same thing as the high school, is how do you see kids, get kids to see this as a relevant exercise and kind of taking control of their education. But we're off to a good start, and we're really excited about where they'll be going. They'll be traveling to Bennington College and touring and meeting kids, more college students in the coming months. So I'll be back in April to report on how we did. And thank you.
Tim, just refresh my memory, those SBACs, are they just given once a year or twice a year?
Once a year.
Once a year, and when do we get the results back?
They're telling us in June. But that would be the the multiple choice. It won't be the performance test that quickly. And it does feel like it's more than once a year, because we'll do SBAC, and then 2 weeks later, the 8th graders will take the science kneecap, and then 2 weeks after that, everybody in the building will stop and take the MAP test.
So we still use kneecap?
For science.
For science, yes.
For science.
Yep. Only for the 8th grade, though.
Okay, we got thank you. Glenda.
Okay, I'm going to start by turning the microphone over to Tim, who's going to catch everybody up on an extraordinary basketball season and give you a sense of what's coming up with baseball and spring sports. Jump into that part, and then I'm going to jump back in.
I don't know what is on Isaac's agenda, so if I could have Isaac speak first, just so I don't step on his toes. If you want to.
Perfect.
Okay, so Isaac, we're turning this over to Isaac.
I promise I'll be quick. First, it wasn't something I was going to talk about, but I just want to say Ms. Remington and Ms. Presto have been doing a really nice job with introducing the PLP processes to the school. I stayed for maybe 2 months ago an after-school meeting. It was about an hour long. There were 2 groups. Charlotte, who was here earlier, conducted my groups, and she led a really great meeting along with Ms. Remington. So personally, I had a few concerns, though I'm not going to be here next year, that were cleared up very quickly by Ms. Remington and Charlotte. So I just want to say that you're doing a nice job for the students. Another thing is, at the school there was the Pops concert. I was there Saturday night. They performed Thursday, Friday, Saturday. Had 2 days prior to that where they were busy rehearsing until 9 p.m. And that was the first one I'd been to, and it was just really an excellent performance. And I was glad I got to see it my senior year. A lot of hard work went into it, and the reward was definitely there. It was very nice to see. And lastly, I just wanted, before the first Super Tuesday voting for presidential nominations, at the main entrance of our school, there was voter registration for about 2 or 3 days, I think. And I was pleased to see that, because I think having the youth involved in what's going on in Bennington and our nations is very important. So I thought that was a nice addition. So it's good to see young people getting involved. So that's all I have.
Do we have results?
What's that?
Results of the we're talking about the presidential.
Oh, it was like the week before Super Tuesday. So I think in Vermont you don't have to be 18, but as long as you're 18 before the voting for the presidency, you're allowed to vote for the nomination. So I think for people who couldn't go to the DMV and register or go, it allowed for an easy access to be able to register. So I just thought that was a nice thing for the school. Yeah.
All right.
I was just going to mention that I have no doubt, since spring sports start on Monday, that it will snow on Monday. Also, just a few notes from the winter. We have 2 coaches who are stepping down after many years of service. Anna Sweetrad with the swim team. She has been our only swim coach for 14 years. She's stepping down, and you may have heard some guy named Legacy, the wrestling coach, after 31 years, has taken over at Castleton State College. And we are all very proud of the job he has done here at Mount Anthony. We wish him well at Castleton as he starts up the program there. The wrestling team won their 28th straight state championship, which is just an extension of their national record. And there are 11 middle school wrestlers and 10 high school wrestlers who are going to be participating in the national championships in Virginia Beach, March 30th and April 1st. So that's how they get better. I also wanted to plug the basketball team. Both basketball teams had a great year. The boys were 21-4. They made it to UVM for the Final Four. They ended up losing to Burlington, the state champions, but they had an outstanding season. And I also wanted to plug the Nordic ski team, who Tim mentioned had a very trying year. But what didn't get much publicity is the fact that they raised $5,700 for the Bennington Free Clinic with a fundraiser, and they've been doing this for 4 years now, and they've raised over $15,000. And again, this is something that gets the headlines of what some of the sports teams do, but this is something that would really encourage our teams, to do community service, to do things like this, and they quietly under the radar are very active, so I'm really proud of that group. The last thing is just a correction on the agenda. you approved Brian Kuhn to replace Scott Legacy as a wrestling coach. I wanted to say that we are just really blessed to have somebody on staff in our system who is not only qualified to take over this program, but wants to. Taking over for Scott Legacy is not going to be an easy feat, and Brian is up to the task. And the fact that he's a teacher at the CDC, it really was great that he was the person that was put forward by the wrestling community, and I support it, and I'm glad to see that you guys support it. But he is listed as the fall season on the agenda, but as a winter coach. And then the last thing is that, just to give you an idea, you approved the varsity boys lacrosse coach back at the end of the fall, Mark Lange, to take over varsity boys lacrosse. And just so you have an idea, in the past 2 months, as all high school coaches who coach at the high school, he took 5 online courses, 3 of which are required by the Vermont Principals Association. One is a 5.5-hour coaching principles course, which is a very thorough course. There's question quizzes at the end you have to pass. He also took a sport first aid course, which is about 3.5 hours online. He also took the required concussion management course, which every, not only paid coach, but volunteer coach has to take. He took a heat illness and dehydration course online, which being a spring coach is something that's very important. And as all our coaches on staff, he took a safe environment course, which covers hazing and sexual harassment. So, you know, all told, it was probably 20 hours of online work that he did. And again, this I'm throwing it out there because I'm not sure how many people know what these coaches have to do for, for continuing education. It's certainly a lot different than it was 20 years ago, when you just needed a whistle and some experience. And, there's a lot of demands put on coaches. It isn't reflected in their pay, but we owe a lot of gratitude to the hours they put in and do such a great job for us. So.
Thank you. Are there any questions of Tim? Thank you very much, and congratulations to everybody. I didn't realize that. That's the the Nordic skiers that have been raising that for a long time. That's
about
great.
40 kids on the team.
That's great. Thank you.
I just have a couple of things to add. On Friday, we're having a professional development day, and we are welcoming a keynote speaker, Kathy Nimmer, who is the Indiana Teacher of the Year, and she was a finalist for the National Teacher of the Year. And she will be coming as our keynote speaker. And she is blind, and her dog Nacho was trained by Mount Anthony High School students. And so she will be bringing Nacho, and we'll be delivering that keynote and giving a writing workshop to some of our faculty. So we're very excited to welcome Kathy and Nacho back to the school on Friday. We are also getting ready to do SBAC testing, and we're beginning that the first week of April. Parents of students in the junior class will be receiving a mailing shortly detailing our procedures and what we're doing, and advising them to have their sons and daughters get lots of sleep and eat hearty breakfasts. And as Tim said, we'll be going from SBACs into science kneecaps, and then AP testing will be happening. And so parents of juniors and seniors can all expect to be getting more information about that as we move through that. And I had a really extraordinary weekend last weekend with Mount Anthony students. On Friday night, the students in Barbara Ackerman's advanced design course, who had done the work on Bennington of the Future designs that I reported on last month, went with their designs to an opening at the Left Bank in North Bennington. And they are now, the exhibit is installed there with an exhibit from Bennington College students who did a similar assignment. And I really encourage you all to try to catch it, because the vision for what Bennington could be and the work of these students is just incredibly compelling. So I would encourage you to check it. So that was Friday night. On Saturday night, I went to the Pops concert and took friends who were wowed by the work that our students did. And on Sunday, I went to the Sage concert at Bennington College, where one of our music teachers, Marge Rowan, premiered one movement from one of her symphonies. So it was, and some of our students were also playing with the Sage Symphony. So it was really a remarkable weekend, and all of our students that participated in those events have just really done some wonderful, wonderful work, and they're making a difference in their community. The next parent night regarding PLPs and flexible pathways is March 29th, and there will be information about that up on the website, in the paper, and on the sign outside the school like there was last month. And I would encourage you all to drop by for that meeting. Ed came to the last one, and it was just really lovely to have board presence there. And that's all I have for tonight.
Thank you. All right, student representative.
No, it's in the library.
Before, Mr. Brown, yeah.
Okay. I didn't know if
Time.
anyone else did. Okay, sorry, go ahead.
I have a question. And
It was interesting. Let's see how this
I read,
I'm sorry.
it's for information only in here, Act 77, the brochure. And what I read in here, I'm gonna read this part because I was looking for a little bit more than what the brochure had, and maybe I'm wrong in terms of that, of the personal learning program, but under guidance, it says that this is how something is gonna be done. And it says guidance will be communicating, this is what to the parents, with you, just as they do now. And that struck me because I'm looking for them to be doing more than what they're doing now. And when that came out that way, it almost said, well, whatever they're doing, we're introducing a new program and you're still gonna get the same look. So you may wanna, in terms of the wording, when I read it that way, that's the way I took that. And I didn't get excited. So I'm saying I wanna get excited, so maybe it may have some more room to get everybody excited, but that's just my opinion.
Okay. That wasn't the spirit under which it was intended, that we're just going to keep doing the same thing. And shortly, once the Ed Committee reforms, we're bringing the job description for the guidance counselor to the Ed Committee for a look before it comes to the board for approval. And a big part of the guidance coordinator or director position is going to be really looking at parent communication and how the guidance counselors are being proactive in that way. So we are looking at revamping that procedure.
Okay, are there any other questions? We can move on. Superintendent?
First, I want to thank both principals, the student representative, and the athletic director for very enlightening reports about what is going on in the great things that are happening in our schools. Thank you for that. My report is just a request this evening. I know you're reorganizing, but we need an education committee as soon as possible. So I don't know, Mr. Chairman, who you're going to appoint to that committee, but I really don't want to wait till the next meeting.
Oh, no, I will get that out. I've already talked to some people about it, and we would certainly like to have a meeting before the end of the month.
Okay, good. So
That's,
if you could let me know once you've heard back from everybody and who's going to be on it, and you appoint them.
Right.
And then we could get an education committee called. There are some things that the principal and I have been meeting on that, of educational matters that we'd like to bring to the education committee and then to the full board.
Sure, even if we can't, we could set up a meeting, and I don't necessarily, we have to have a committee. Anyway, we'll work on it.
All
We'll get
right.
back
Just want to
as
bring
soon
that
as
to
I
your attention
can.
that we need that as soon as possible.
Yeah.
I was going to say the 21st should not be the day of that meeting.
No, you
There's some board members here that are...
Right, and the other request is to set a date for your April meeting.
Yes, I was gonna get down there.
Yeah.
Okay. We can move on then. The chairs, Jim, is that you?
Yes.
The chair's report. We had those people that noticed in the paper this morning that we've had another communication from a few concerned citizens about various matters. Those matters, in many cases, have been gone over a number of times. One of the problems was that the letter was addressed to me, and it was said that it was delivered to me on the 29th of February, and I'm supposed to respond to it within 7 days. I never received the letter. I went back and looked, and, you know, whatever happened, I never received it, and nobody else received it. So anyway, today, we got in touch with our attorney, and we are going to respond to that group, saying that we will have an official response to it within 7 days. And it is many of the issues that we've talked about before. I will send you, I just got a copy of the letter today, so I didn't have a chance to send it out to you, but I will send a copy of the concerns that these citizens expressed to you. And then, hopefully, within the very near future, we'll have a response to those concerns from our attorney. Some of those concerns dealt with the executive session, the appointment of positions, whether those were appropriate for executive session or not. And I just felt that it would be more appropriate to have an attorney answer those questions than try to answer them myself. As you remember, we sent a letter to a group of people answering most of those questions already. So just to let you know what's happening. And I will, in the next few days, send you a copy of the concerns that were expressed by that group and what they would like to see us do, which some of those things were pretty dramatic. So just to let you know that is coming. If you have concerns, you can call me, or Jim, I know, is getting involved in this too, so you can call either one of us. Okay, Jim at our last meeting asked if there were any topics that he felt, that you felt you would like to have the administration address in the next few meetings that the board will be meeting. Was there any, Dave, did you have something that... Okay, I thought one of the things that might be interesting, and we haven't had Laura Boudreau here talking about the testing. I know the SBAC has only been taught 1 year, but there should be some relative relationship between how we do and other schools do, or something. Is there that? Okay, well maybe, Jim, if that's appropriate and you feel that we still have time to do it, that's something I would appreciate.
I will look at the schedule and see on testing or curriculum.
Well, I'm interested in the testing and what kind of results we can expect and how we can use those tests to be able to determine what we might want to do to improve, and what we're doing well, and what we ought to take another look at.
Okay.
Does that conform with, generally speaking? Anybody else have any topics that they would like to see us address? Yes, Ed.
I'd like to know more about how IEPs are developed, and that's because close to 25% of our school population is in special ed, and the IEP is the driver of that, and I'd like to know more about how those documents are developed.
That's a good topic. I'm sure Wendy or someone could speak to that. Good. Are there any other topics? We don't know that much longer. The other thing we have to determine, there is the vacation schedule. Do you have that, Jim?
It's the week of the 18th, I believe.
The week of the 18th. I think the third Wednesday of April is during that week.
So we're scheduled to have our meeting on the 20th, and that's in school vacation week. So Wednesday the 20th is...
I'm just going to throw this out for consideration, that we hold the meeting on the 20th. None of us are...
On vacation?
On vacation. I don't know whether the superintendent takes that week off.
I could be there.
But unless there's some compelling reason beyond the fact that there happens to be no school that day, I'm not sure why the board can't meet.
Good point. Anybody have any?
Tim, what about building access on night during school vacation? Are there custodians on duty in school vacation week?
On a daytime shift, but have to be present.
All right. So Paul, we could make arrangements, yeah. I know that they shift custodians, but our facilities directors say that shouldn't be an issue.
Yeah, I mean, we always seem to reschedule the meeting during a school vacation week, and it inevitably causes trouble because you can't do it on a Wednesday because that's another board meeting.
Wednesdays are booked, yeah.
So it seems to me that, why not?
I would just, if we have
I
an
don't know
administrator.
I don't know if your principals are,
Yeah, if
are
you
you planning
want,
vacations,
you can't be
but,
here, we'll survive
but the
without
board,
you.
yeah.
If you've made arrangements to be someplace
What
else.
I've done in the past, I've asked principals to submit a written report that can be in the board packet. If they're not if they have a planned vacation for that week, I think that would be fine.
That's fine. But- So that would be the 20th?
So keep the meeting for the already scheduled
Jim?
date?
Yes.
Would we still be meeting at 7 o'clock?
I would think so, yes. I know there are some people that are working, but they make enough to get here. Okay, we talked about what we're going to do. I'd like to thank Dave Ferguson for writing a letter. I hope that got in your packet that he wrote to the coach of the...
Bruce Smith.
Bruce Smith. Did that make it in the packet? Okay, well, that's great. Are there any other issues to be brought before this board? We will have a very, very short executive session right after this. Do I have a motion to move? Have a second? Second. All those in favor, signify by saying. Excuse me?
For what reason?
Personnel.
Wait a minute now, what kind of personnel? Of our last meeting?
I checked with the attorney and with the law books. Personnel is a perfectly legitimate request to go into it.
All right.
You're going to have an education meeting on the 30th?
Okay, we will not be coming back into open session, so that would, as far as I know, we would not be coming back.
No action, to take no action.
Right, to take action.
Yeah, but you could pass your name cards up, please?
Yeah, but after I went to that PL, thank you, PLP presentation, a couple weeks ago, I was going to the CDC the next day signing.